A traveler's GMT, or as some refer to it, a true GMT, is now available at much lower price points due to Miyota releasing the 97.5 GMT movement. Now, we've seen this movement in a few watches. I think Bulova was the first, and in the micro brand space, we have seen Traska and Jack Mason, among a few others. But now Marloe watch has put out a GMT, and it's a really good looking piece. It comes in two dial colors, black and sky blue, and they are dubbed night and day respectively. The pricing, $750 for either model, and they come with a choice of 16 different strap options. 2023 is absolutely the year of the GMT, so let's see how this Marloe GMT tracks all those time zones. First, a word from our sponsor of this video, Everest Bands. Now, I'm sure many of you are familiar with Everest. You've seen their ads, seen them on Instagram or Facebook. They make premium rubber straps for Rolex, Panerai, and Tudor. Fitted end rubber to perfectly fit your specific model. But Don, I don't have a Rolex, Tudor, or Panerai. How can I still purchase and enjoy an Everest strap? Well, my friend, Everest now makes universal straps. Yes, universal straps to fit your Christopher Ward, or Raven, or a Hamilton, or even a Seiko, or this Marloe GMT, as you see on screen. Everest now makes universal straps such as this premium rubber and leather straps as well. Now, I will link to all the specific strap information down in the comments and down in the description, but these are premium natural rubber or leather straps with quick release pins to easily attach or remove from your watch. This black rubber is fantastic, but I do love the look of this cherry leather as well. But if these are not your style, check out their site to see all the universal straps available. And of course, if you do own a Rolex, Tudor, or Panerai, and you want to sport it on something other than the stock bracelet or stock leather, and you don't want to spend upwards of $500 or more for the OEM straps, yet you still want premium quality, check out Everest Bands. You can also get the strap changing pad you see in this video as well, so you can change your straps on a beautiful leather mat, which not only looks great on your table or desk, but also protects your watch from damage. Link in the description. Oh, and use code REPORT to get a free watch cleaning pocket square to keep your watch free of fingerprints and dust in style. Just add the cloth to your order along with the code and you will get one for free. Also, free shipping over $100 for the United States, Europe, and the UK. Thank you to Everest for sponsoring this video. All right, again, thank you to Everest Bands for sponsoring this video. And back to the review on screen, you will see all the specifications. And there are quite a few I want to point out and discuss. Now, this is a $750 watch, but if you go to the Marloe website, you will see a pop-up for 10% off your first order. So that would put this under $700 at $675. The case is 42 millimeters, which some feel is on the large size, as many seem to be wanting 40 millimeter and under these days. I am not in that camp, as I've always said. I like a 42 millimeter watch with my 7.5 inch or 19.05 centimeter wrist, especially when it is combined with a short lug to lug and is very thin, as this hits only just over 12 millimeters with that vintage style box crystal. So this is still a slim and wearable watch in my opinion, though I have seen some people complain about the 20 millimeter lugs. Now, I really don't see it as a big deal, but some say it looks off balanced. It's not like this is a large watch. I think when people, for whatever reason these days, they hear 42 millimeters and that somehow these days is just a ginormous watch to some people. And they think, oh, well, now it should have 22 or 24 millimeter lugs. Now, I personally disagree. I still think the 20 millimeter lugs on this Marloe balances it out just fine. Again, your opinions may vary. Now, before we get to the GMT functionality, there is one area I have been going back and forth on, and that is the 50 meters of water resistance and the push-pull crown. I am someone who almost always prefers a screw-down crown and at least 100 meters of water resistance. Now, this watch also does have a resemblance to the Christopher Ward C63 GMT, and that does have a screw-down crown and 150 meters of water resistance. Those models are $810 on a rubber strap, though like I said, this Marlowe can be had for $675, so not exactly the same price point. Now, CW learned with their first iteration of the vintage C65 that people prefer a screw down crown and changed it to one on the second iteration, which I reviewed here about a year or two ago, and it was one of my favorite watches, if not my favorite from that brand ever. So, yeah, I would like to see more water resistance and a screw down crown, but this is not a dive watch either, and I got to get that in my head. But to me, it would probably limit how I would wear it. The case design is nice and sleek with the vertical brushing on the mid case, polished top and lugs, and a steel 48-click bi-directional bezel. The crown is signed and looks good, if not a touch on the small side, but it all functions as it should, and I do think it's a nice everyday looking piece. So, okay, true GMT or Traveler's GMT as it is also referred to. Now, I gotta be honest, I've never actually had a need for a GMT watch, even though I have owned many over the years, mostly because that model just looked good, so that is what I went for, but it wasn't for the GMT function. But what is the difference between this and a GMT and, say, a Solita or an ETA movement? Now, I suspect I'm going to probably be reviewing a few more of these 97.5 GMTs throughout the year, so I will get into this once, and then I'll be able to refer back to this review in later videos. Basically, it comes down to how one would prefer to set your home and GMT time. Now, because of the bezel, this can actually track 3 time zones, and on a collar GMT, like in an ETA or an ETA, you set your time like on any other watch, but on the first position, you could either change the date or you can move the Arrow GMT hand around to track a second time zone. This is called a caller's GMT because you would set your home time and the GMT hand is used to track another time zone, most likely of someone you would call that is a few hours behind or ahead of your time zone. Now, the Traveler's GMT has a jumping hour hand, and you basically set it the opposite of the caller. You would set the main hands to the time of where you have traveled, and then the GMT arrow hand to your home time. And if you wanted, you can move the bezel to track a third time zone, like the one, of your overseas girlfriend. You just never tell your wife what that bezel is being used for. Now, all jokes aside, you could see that you pull the crown out to the first position and you could jump the hour hand in either direction around the dial. But this does complicate things a bit. Because the hour hand jumps and can be moved in either direction, it removes the quick set date function. So you can advance the date with the jump hand, or you can do the traditional time setting and just keep going 24 hours on the dial to advance the date. Now, I'm not sure what the limitations are of this movement or why the jumping hour couldn't just move in one direction so that the other could be there to advance the date separately. But there you go. That's how a Traveler's GMT hand works and the difference between a caller's GMT. Now, this dial has a great texture. It's a stepped dial, and it really does look great. I love that nice texture of the dial. I know some people don't like it. Some people will be like, oh, it looks like sand or it looks like this. I personally really like how they did this. You have applied markers, and the choice of hands they went with is very, very nice, very legible dial altogether. Now, I do wish, though, that with the quick set date being deleted, that they just went no date here and kept the dial a little more cohesive. Now, I also love that box dome sapphire, which does have dual-sided AR coatings, which is not my favorite, so keep that in mind if you're going to get one of these. Down the line, you might see scratches on the crystal, but it'll most likely be in the AR coating and not the sapphire itself. With the Marloe GMT, you get a choice of a lot of straps. Like I said, 16, I believe. Leather, fabric, rubber, all different colors. Even a straight end bracelet option, not a solid end link option, which I would prefer. I chose the black rubber. It reminds me a lot of a Hearst strap I had years ago with the checkered pattern. It's a good thickness while still being very, very pliable. Now, of course, if these straps don't work for you, you can check out our sponsor of this video, Everest, and get a nice rubber or leather strap, or just put on any of your favorite 20mm straps. The loom surprised me for sure. I didn't know what to expect, but the BGW9 is nice and bright. It holds a nice charge for about 3 hours or so, But yes, it does look good in the dark. So, yeah, for me, I like the look of many GMT watches, but I don't really have a use for them. That's just my use case. But for those that do and actually travel and rely on a watch for the time zones, well, now there are much more affordable options out there for an automatic traveler's GMT. As far as this Marlowe goes, I love the look of this piece. It's slim, it wears well, it has a great dial in hands, and I love the rubber strap. But I guess I would like to see a screw down crown, more water resistance, and sometimes you just can't have everything. If you want to see more, I will have a written review linked below, so check that out, as well as a link down to the Marlowe website, and of course, a link to Everest Bands. Want to keep seeing more of our videos? Hit all the buttons. The like, the bell, the subscribe button, hit them all. Oh, and give a comment down below. All of that is free. It'll only take you a minute and it greatly helps out the channel. Plus, I like hearing from all of you. Well, not all of you, most of you. You know who you are. And if you're questioning it, you're probably not one. That's all for this one. This is Don Evans from Watch Report. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.